Ladies and gentlemen, this is from James Comer's House Oversight Report on the AUTOPEN pardons. The Constitution is clear. The President shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, and constitutional scholars have explained, quote, the history confirms that the Constitution's location of pardon power is significant. The President must make the decisions, and the courts can hold pardons void if the decisions are made by others. That is the issue, not the fact that nobody knows who ran the AUTOPEN. The issue is that Democrats themselves forced Biden out of office because of almost certain cognitive issues. Hit subscribe to this channel right now to my super chat. Your support is so greatly appreciated. Let's get started. This is the deposition of the doctor, Biden's doctor. I'm not accusing him or anyone of committing a crime. He has the right, as they all do, to plead the fifth. The issue is, number one, why are certain people pleading the fifth while others are actually testifying? That is not as important as the possibility that other people, not necessarily the people that you're seeing now, but other people were running the show. Did Biden know that these pardons for Cheney, for the select committee, for Schiff, Kinzinger, and others, did Biden know that he was pardoning these people? Did other people pardon through the AUTOPEN on Biden's behalf? That makes it unconstitutional. The Congressional report, and hit subscribe to this channel right now, that you just saw states categorically it's unconstitutional because other people were utilizing the AUTOPEN without Biden's knowledge. Hit subscribe. This is huge. You're going to see President Trump, the DOJ, the FBI, and others. The DOJ will almost certainly indict Cheney and others at the Select Committee, in addition to other people who were pardoned in the last seconds of Biden's presidency. Hit subscribe. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this. It's growing. We're over 20,000 subs there. We're approaching 300,000 subs here. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this for the synopsis of this live stream. Check it out. Again, I'm not accusing Biden's doctor of any criminal activity.
Dated July 8th, 2025, to your counsel from Gary Lakowski, Deputy Counsel to the President, informing you that President Trump has determined not to assert executive privilege over issues regarding your assessment of President Biden's fitness for office and your financial relationship with the Biden family. For the purposes of the deposition, objections must be stated concisely and in a non-argumentative and non-suggestive manner. If the witness refuses to answer a question to preserve a privilege, the committee may seek a ruling from the chair. If the chair overrules any such objection, the witness shall be ordered to answer. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
If the witness continues to refuse to answer a question despite being ordered to do so, the witness may be subject to sanction. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Finally, I will note for everyone here today that the contents of what we discuss in the deposition are confidential under the House deposition regulations. Under the rules, the chairman and ranking minority members shall consult before any release of testimony or transcripts, including portions thereof. This means it is a violation of House and committee rules to disclose contents of this deposition prior to its official release. Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Will you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly declare and affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go off the record. Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must rely on my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Dr. O'Connor, did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Dr. O'Connor, is it your intention to decline to answer all questions put to you today by the committee on the basis of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
So according to the Congressional report, James Comer and Republicans looked at who ran the AUTOPEN. They could not find anyone. They couldn't find anyone that actually ran the AUTOPEN. They couldn't find anyone who knew people that ran the AUTOPEN. They could not find any information that proved Biden pardoned anybody. His last, aside from Hunter, because Hunter was the only pardon where his signature, Biden signed the pardon himself. According to the report, this is an imminent ruling by the Supreme Court. Let's continue.
And we can tell you that he will have the same answer with respect to any questions that are asked.
Thank you, sir. Does the minority wish to ask any questions?
We wish to give Mr. Schertler an opportunity to make his statement, and we'd like to enter a few exhibits into the record.
Okay, go ahead. We'll go off the record.
Dr. O'Connor, good morning. Just wanted to note for the record that prior to your appearance for today's deposition, your attorneys raised with the majority your position that the questions posed to you today by my majority colleagues may require you to infringe on doctor-patient confidentiality, a fundamental principle.
None of the questions were correlated to politics. Was he told to lie? Was he told to lie or cover things up? The questions were not about cholesterol or, any health issue. They didn't even bring up specific cognitive assessments or terms. But anyway, let's continue.
Principle of medicine, which, as your attorneys have explained, is both long held and widely recognized. Your attorneys further explained to the majority that should you provide any answers to the majority's questions today that violate doctor-patient confidentiality, you may be in breach of your legal and ethical obligations to your patient and suffer grave professional and personal consequences from any such breach. Mr. Schertler, I understand that you had a statement you wish to make for the record, and I'd like to give you that opportunity now.
Thank you very much. Chairman Comer, Representative Crockett, and members of both the majority and minority staffs, good morning. My name is David Schertler, and along with my partner Mark McDougall, we represent Dr. Kevin O'Connor. As you all know, Dr. O'Connor served as the physician to President Biden during President Biden's term of office from January 2021 until January of 2025. Dr. O'Connor had also been President Biden's primary care physician for 12 years before President Biden took office in January of 2021. It was Dr. O'Connor's privilege and honor to serve as President Biden's physician and as head of the White House Medical Unit. Dr. O'Connor has also served in the United States Army for over 20 years and did active tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq. This committee has indicated to Dr. O'Connor and to us, his attorneys, that it does not intend to honor one of the most well-known privileges in our law, the physician-patient privilege.
But there was nothing that was asked pertaining to Biden's health. The issue is they're asking the doctor if he was told to lie about Biden's health. That's different. That's a different story. Again, the doctor, there's no evidence he committed any crimes. So there's no evidence that this man committed any crimes.
Instead, the committee has indicated to us that it will demand that Dr. O'Connor reveal, without any limitations, confidential information regarding medical examinations, treatment, and care of President Biden. Revealing confidential patient information would violate the most fundamental ethical duty of any physician.
But it's not, again, he was not being asked specific patient-doctor information. He was being asked, was he told to lie? Okay. Was he told to not lie by omission? That's what he was being asked. By the way, to my super chat, American Girl, thank you so very much for watching for so many years. Thank you. Happy New Year to you. Paul Bartlett, thank you as always, Paul. Your support is so greatly appreciated. To my super chat, everybody, your support is so greatly appreciated. I agree with you, American Girl. I think it's definitely, we all should buckle up. It is going to be an awesome, wild, hopefully, God willing, amazing ride for everybody politically. I think that President Trump this year is probably going to be the most important year in politics thus far in Trump's 2 terms. I think that is the truth. American Girl, thank you. Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much, as always.
It could also result in the revocation of Dr. O'Connor's medical license and could subject him to civil liability. Dr. O'Connor will not violate the oath of confidentiality to any of his patients, including President Biden. Furthermore, through the issuance of a presidential memorandum that was dated June 4th of 2025, President Trump directed the Department of Justice and the White House counsel to conduct a parallel criminal investigation into the same topics that are being investigated by this committee.
So there is currently a criminal investigation into this matter. The Supreme Court, when they get the indictment of anyone that was pardoned that President Trump's DOJ wants to indict, the media will say, the Constitution allows that. And that's an ABC News article, but the Constitution allows only the president, not anyone else. So that's the lie by omission from media. Media will say, Trump can't decide, can't void Biden's pardons. He can if the DOJ can prove that Biden himself didn't order the pardons, which is a very real possibility since Democrats themselves kicked Biden out of contention. That's the issue here. The Democratic Party, this is like, a top magician or illusionist. I'm not talking about this individual. I'm talking about the Democratic Party. They're like an illusionist that says, okay, we have a presidency. Oh, no, we don't. We have a new nominee. Everything's fine. You haven't seen anything. You don't know what we're doing. It's an illusion. And it's like, Biden won his primary. Okay, he won his primary. He won 14 million or so votes. Then they removed him. Why? Why did Biden get usurped and replaced by Harris. Almost certainly because of obvious cognitive issues that we all saw. That's the issue here.
In fact, just this past Sunday, Chairman Comer, I believe you confirmed on Fox News that Pam Bondi has announced an investigation of the Department of Justice into the illegal use of the AUTOPEN. We believe that the committee should hold its investigation in abeyance until any criminal investigation has been conducted and completed.
You can't have the criminal investigation without depositions first.
Nonetheless, the totality of the circumstances surrounding this committee's investigation leave Dr. O'Connor no choice but to decline to answer questions on two overlapping grounds. First, the physician-patient privilege and the physician's ethical duty of confidentiality required that Dr. O'Connor refuse to testify about any aspect of his care and treatment of President Biden. Second, a pending Department of Justice criminal investigation leaves Dr. O'Connor no choice but to invoke his constitutional right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to any questions that might be posed by the committee in this deposition. And we want to emphasize that in asserting a Fifth Amendment privilege does not imply that Dr. O'Connor has committed any crime. In fact, to the contrary, our Supreme Court has emphasized, and I quote, "One of the Fifth Amendment's basic functions is to protect innocent men who otherwise might be ensnared by ambiguous circumstances," end of quote. For these reasons, Dr. O'Connor will respectfully decline to answer any questions.
And those ambiguous circumstances are oftentimes other people who committed crimes, or other people who got the people who asked or tried to implicate the people pleading the Fifth into those crimes. So the doctor, there's no evidence that this doctor committed any crimes. However, other people did not plead the Fifth. You'll hear one of their testimonies in a couple of minutes after the other examples of people pleading the Fifth. The obvious question, or the likelihood, we don't know this to be certain, but that is the likelihood is that others within Biden's campaign asked the doctor to lie by omission or overtly lie, or not, perhaps not give a cognitive test, or perhaps somehow, some way, help Democrats continue to kind of hide the fact that Biden's mental decline was taking place rapidly, or that he had mental decline to begin with. We don't know if anyone approached the doctor to ask him to lie. But that was the nature of the questions being asked of him, not directly patient-client privilege questions. But anyway, there's no evidence that this doctor committed any crimes. Let's go ahead and listen to some more testimony, which will eventually overturn the blanket pardons for a whole bunch of people who potentially, like Liz Cheney, potentially, like the Honorable James Comey says, potentially. Cheney and others at the Select Committee are accused of deleting government records, classified data, destroying government records, classified data. These are all felonies. That's why either Biden or likely somebody around Biden that nobody knows yet had the AUTOPEN pardon the Select Committee. Why would you pardon the Select Committee unless they actually committed crimes? And the rebuttal is, well, Trump won't go after them. Well, again, why didn't they pardon Comey also, or Letitia James? So you could have pardoned a whole bunch of people that Trump rightfully would look at because they likely committed crimes.
Copies of those exhibits will be kept at the table.
This is Jill Biden's chief of staff. And Jill Biden was probably very influential during the latter half, or probably during the entire Biden presidency.
Will return to us when we wrap up. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No. Jake, I have a question. Are we afforded the opportunity to make an opening statement?
No, not today. Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Sure. Sir, would you please raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly declare and affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. My clock reads 10:10. The majority's hour will begin now. Mr. Bernal, did you ever advise President Joe Biden to pardon his son, Hunter Biden?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Thank you. We're going to go off the record real quick. Okay, we'll go back on the record. Mr. Bernal, was President Joe Biden fit to exercise the duties of the president?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mr. Bernal, did any unelected official or family member of President Joe Biden execute the duties of the presidency?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mr. Bernal, did President Joe Biden ever instruct you to lie regarding his health at any time, including but not limited in your testimony to Congress today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mr. Bernal, is it your intention to decline to answer all questions put to you today by the committee on the basis of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
I can represent that that is his intention.
Thank you. Does the minority wish to ask questions?
Yes, we do.
Go off the record.
All right, we're back on the record. Would the members who just came into the room identify themselves, starting with Mr. Donald?
Myron Donalds, member of Congress, Florida's 19th District.
And Jasmine Crockett, Texas 30.
Mr. Bernal, good morning. Mr. Sue, you weren't afforded the opportunity to make a statement by the majority. Would you like to make that statement now?
Yes, thanks very much. Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Garcia, and members of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability. Mr. Bernal appears before you today fulfilling his obligations to the committee. An Arizona native, Mr. Bernal has served with distinction in 3 presidential administrations, most recently as Assistant to the President and Chief of Staff to the First Lady. Mr. Bernal is rightfully proud of his service to the nation. The committee has sought testimony from Mr. Bernal for nearly 2 years without any actual evidence of wrongdoing by Mr. Bernal. Most recently, the committee seeks Mr. Bernal's testimony based on a proposal.
There's no evidence of wrongdoing by Mr. Bernal. The reason that Republicans have been asking for his testimony or for information pertaining to his job is that he was the chief of staff for Joe Biden, or very important to Joe Biden, who could have been extremely important during the Biden presidency because she could have been making decisions as Biden's possible mental decline was rapidly taking place. The issue is that they were talking about replacing Biden for 2 years. There were rumblings of Democrats replacing Biden long before the debate. They wanted to replace Biden because of the fact that he was possibly one fry short of a Happy Meal. That was the issue. The entire planet knew that the poor man was going through serious issues. What Democrats and media did is said, don't believe your lying eyes. From the moment he got 81 million votes until the moment they said, oh, no more. And they turned on Biden. Not this man. I'm not accused. No, not Anthony Bernal. He didn't turn on Biden. But the media, George Clooney, Hollywood, all the Democrats in Congress, Pelosi, all of them did. That's why his testimony. So they without any evidence of wrongdoing. Yeah, but you kicked Biden out of contention after he won 14 million votes. That's why. He won his primary. Why did they kick him out of the contention? Why did they kick Biden out of contention if he won his primary? Why did they kick Biden out of contention if he won his primary? This should be asked a million times a day.
Reported controversy regarding the use of the AUTOPEN at the conclusion of President Biden's term. President Biden has already confirmed that he personally made all decisions concerning his grants of clemency.
No, he did not confirm that.
While the committee only recently began its AUTOPEN investigation, the chairman has already declared that this matter is, quote, the biggest scandal in Oval Office history, end quote. In addition, on June 4th, 2025, the White House directed the Department of Justice to open a criminal investigation into this matter.
So the Democrats, when Trump confirmed that he never worked with Russia, the Democrats said, oh, we're going to trust a criminal? No, we have to investigate forever. Trump said routinely he never worked with Russia, and guess what? It was a hoax. Trump never had anything to do with Russia because the Clinton campaign literally wrote that they wanted to elevate Trump and other Pied Piper candidates, Ted Cruz and Dr. Ben Carson. Then when they lost, they said, oh my God, the Russians. But all the while, President Trump said, I did not do that. And he was right. He was an innocent man that was set up and framed by a whole bunch of people with a dossier purchased by Clinton. Did he confirm that he never worked with Russia? Yeah, many times he confirmed that. He said it endlessly. That was not viewed as a confirmation by Democrats or media.
The chairman has acknowledged that, quote, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced an investigation at the Department of Justice, so we're very interested, end quote. Under these circumstances, it is entirely appropriate and justified for Mr. Bernal to invoke his rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. In Ohio v. Reiner, the U.S. Supreme Court explained that one of the Fifth Amendment's, quote, basic functions is to protect innocent men who otherwise might be ensnared by ambiguous circumstances, end quote. The record is also clear that persons of the full range of the political spectrum in recent and historical congressional investigations have invoked their Fifth Amendment rights to decline to answer questions from Congress. Any suggestion that such an invocation is itself evidence of wrongdoing would be highly irresponsible and flatly wrong, particularly from those elected to represent the people and uphold the Constitution. For these reasons, Mr. Bernal respectfully declines to answer any of the committee's questions today in today's deposition, and thank you for the opportunity to provide the statement.
I'm entering as Exhibit A an April 1st, 2025 New York Times article titled, Trump Allied Prosecutor Looks to Undermine Biden Pardons, which describes a Justice Department investigation.
Trump-allied prosecutor, never Biden-allied prosecutor, never Biden-allied judge, never Democrat-aligned prosecutor or judge. This is the type of thing we have to deal with as a country. It's not that would be a lot. Is that a lie by omission, or it's just always public relations?
That, quote, uses the levers of federal law enforcement to try to harass Mr. Biden's family and allies and undermine his decisions as president, while scoring political points with President Trump, end quote. I'm also going to mark as Exhibit B a May 13th, 2025 ABC News article.
So left-leaning publications, which is hilarious because CNN or ABC News, they're not viewed as, like the New York Times is viewed as apolitical by Democrats. So during Trump's trial and conviction in New York, which will be overturned also by the Supreme Court because it's unconstitutional, a state cannot level an FEC crime when the FEC dropped the case. The DOJ wasn't even involved, and that's a federal crime, not a state crime. Completely unconstitutional, so blatantly. And then there's so many other conflicts of interest, but they asked jurors, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe, is where do you get your news? Oh, CNN? The New York Times? Oh, that's okay. So you're not biased against Trump, right? No, I just watch CNN. Oh, you watch CNN? Okay. Oh, so you're not biased against Trump? Good. You're on the jury. It's like that with CNN and the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, the Atlantic. They're basically public relations firms for the Democratic Party. There's not one supporter of Trump at the Atlantic. Not one. Not one. Almost certainly not. I mean, you can't state that. One can assume there's not one supporter of Trump. They're all lifelong Democrats. They all despise Trump and everything they write. Well, I mean, you can look at stories that have been published that are complete. It's basically gossip and hearsay. Trump said this. How do we know? Because somebody said he said this. Let's continue.
Titled Ed Martin, Trump's DOJ pardon attorney, says he'll review Biden's outgoing pardons, which quotes Mr. Martin as saying that if the targets of his investigation, quote, can be charged, we'll charge them. But if they can't be charged, we will name them, and we will name them, end quote.
Let her handle that first.
Yep. Allegations that the majority has leveled in this matter.
So this is the White House Chief of Staff. This is very interesting because he speaks. He doesn't plead the fifth. And a lot of other people there's another person, maybe one or two other that plead the fifth, but a lot of people actually do speak. So I find it bizarre that you have certain people pleading the fifth and certain people speaking. That is bizarre to me. But anyway, listen to this. This is interesting.
How much time do we have? 15 minutes. Can we go up here? Mr. Frank, I'm going to ask a broad question that's yes or no right now, and then we can dive into details if there are any yeses. And it's between 2019 and present, have you had any communications, meaning in-person calls, texts, anything, with the following list of people regarding President Biden's ability to be president of the United States? I'm cutting out health and age because I'm sure we've run into, we talked about a cough drop or something. So ability to be president of the United States. First Lady Biden?
No.
Hunter Biden?
No.
Ashley Biden?
No.
Naomi Biden?
Not to recall, no.
Valerie Biden Owens?
Not to recall, no.
Vice President Harris?
No.
Second Gentleman Emhoff?
Not to recall, no.
President Obama?
No.
President Clinton?
No.
Secretary Clinton?
Yes.
Mr. Zients?
No.
Mr. Rahm Emanuel?
Yes.
Mr. Bill Daley?
No.
Mr. Jake Sullivan?
Yes.
Miss Anita Dunn?
No.
Mr. Mike Donlin?
Not to recall, no.
Mr. Bruce Reed?
Not to recall, no.
Mr. Steve Ricchetti?
I would have discussed with Steve the political fallout of the debate, but Steve did not express to me the view that he thought the president was incapable of being president.
So there's no evidence that Ron Klain committed any crimes at all. The issue here is that he There's no evidence that this man, Ron Klain, the chief of staff, Biden's chief of staff, committed any crimes. The only issue here that could implicate others is that he utilizes the phrase political fallout or politics numerous times. These could be viewed as synonyms or another way of saying a metaphor for Biden's mental decline. When they talk about the political fallout from what? Well, why was the debate a disaster? Why did they want to replace Biden? Why was Biden replaced after he won 14 million votes in a primary? Why do they even have primaries? Why don't they have functioning primaries? That's a whole other story. It's a complete farce. They just literally allowed Biden. They had the good sense to at least cheat Bernie Sanders in 2016, and they didn't even cheat Biden in this primary. He won his primary, and then they usurped him with the vice president. Why did they allow Biden to run in a primary? Well, because it could have been by design. It could have been simply a theatrical performance. The whole thing was likely a theatrical performance. They just wanted to have Biden win the primary because perhaps it was easier for them to just get everybody to walk in lockstep, vote Democrat, have Biden win the primary, because you can't really have a sitting president, an incumbent, lose a primary. What would that do for the political party? But I guess in their minds, not this man's mind, not Ron Klain's mind, but in the minds of Democrats, you could have Biden win the primary, but then usurp him and remove him from contention and have his vice president, which would be just as fine because Trump is Satan. And so that's the mindset of Democrats. The problem, however, is that they removed Biden because of political fallout, because of politics, because of the debate, because it all tied to potential cognitive or mental issues or decline. Therefore, if they didn't trust Biden to run against Trump, why on earth should Comer and Republicans and Trump and the average American trust that Biden himself ordered the pardons? Because he says so? Well, Trump said that he never worked with Russia, but Democrats didn't care at all. They investigated forever. They found nothing because they made up that hoax. And this AUTOPEN pardon scandal is a typical Democratic Party scandal. They're always scheming. It's unbelievable. Top secret intelligence on servers. It's unbelievable. 50 intel officials Trump couldn't get away with 1/100th of what Democrats have done. But anyway, so there's no evidence that Ron Klain committed any crimes. The problem, however, is watch the following. He uses the word politics as a metaphor for, possibly as a metaphor for Biden's mental decline.
Miss O'Malley Dillon.
Same answer for Ms. O'Malley Dillon.
Mr. Bernal.
No, not that I recall.
Miss Tomasini.
No, not that I recall.
Miss Tandon.
Same answer I gave for Mr. Ricchetti and Ms. O'Malley Dillon.
Miss Ashley Williams.
No.
Dr. O'Connor.
No.
Miss Bedingfield.
Not that I recall, no.
Miss Psaki.
Same answer I would give that I gave previously, that I would discuss with Jen the political ramifications of the debate, but not a view by herself or myself that the president was incapable of governing.
But the political ramifications directly correlate with the president not being capable of governing. That's what the political ramifications are.
Mr. David Axelrod.
Similar answer. I had a spicy conversation with Mr. Axelrod after he was quoted in the New York Times saying the president should step aside.
Miss Jean-Pierre.
Not that I recall, no.
Speaker Meredith Pelosi.
No.
Senator Schumer.
No.
Leader Jeffries.
No.
I think I've asked this 1,000 different ways, but any other sitting senator?
No.
Any other sitting member of Congress other than the ones that we've already discussed?
None beyond the ones we've already discussed.
And then what about any member of the cabinet?
No.
You said yes to Secretary Clinton. What were the nature of those conversations?
Secretary Clinton was present at this event I did in Aspen, where I was, where a number of people were saying that President Biden should step aside. And afterwards, she took me aside for a conversation and said, look, he's got a big political problem. You need to find a better way to address this than you did. I said, I understand. She did not say to me she thought the president was incapable of governing. It was all about politics.
Why would there be a political problem if he was capable of governing? The political problem that Madam Secretary was discussing with Ron Klain almost certainly was a discussion about Biden's mental capacity without using the words. And that's why the pardons are unconstitutional, likely unconstitutional, because the political fallout, the political problems, the political issues are tied to Biden's mental capacity, which is also tied to whether or not he himself ordered the pardons. Only the wonderful, morally superior Democrats would expect the entire planet to be okay with last-second pardons from an AUTOPEN from a president that they literally removed because of cognitive issues from contention. It's completely outlandish.
But she said that, the sentiment in the room was a common sentiment among donors, at least, and among politically influential people, and Biden campaign was doing an inadequate job of addressing it.
And again, if I mischaracterize your testimony today, that sounds similar to how you felt at the time. That it was a political problem, not a governing problem.
Yes.
You said yes to Mr. Emanuel. What were the nature of those conversations?
Well, one of the people who was most outspoken in that Aspen meeting about the president's age was his brother, Ari, who had been President Trump's agent. And Ari had heckled me essentially from the stage. And so I called Ron to say, what the fuck's going on with your brother? And he said, well, Ari just thinks Biden should step aside.
Do you think Mr. Emanuel's running for president in 2028?
I don't think so. In the end, I think he will head fake a lot, but I do not think in the end Ron will run.
Okay. You said yes to Jake.
Rahm Emanuel running in 28 would make Newsom look like FDR, and then Newsom versus Vance would be J.D. Vance would defeat Newsom by a greater landslide than Trump defeated Harris.
Sullivan, what were the nature of those conversations?
In the summer of 2024, after the debate, the NATO summit was here in Washington, and there was public reporting that the president's performance at the NATO summit had been uneven. So I called Jake to ask him if that was true or not. And Jake said the meeting had been a difficult one, that the allies weren't all aligned, and that the president had sometimes been effective, sometimes ineffective in getting them in line. But in the end, the president had gotten the job done. The allies had agreed on a plan for going forward on Ukraine. The allies had agreed to make more of a contribution if the U.S. pulled back, and it ended well.
And the meeting was a tough one because people disagreed, not necessarily, or was there further discussion regarding President Biden's ability to conduct that meeting?
We discussed Jake's view that the president had not been as effective in getting the allies to agree as he had been in the past, and part of that I think was just the allies were tired of the war and tired of the expense, and concerned that President Trump was going to get reelected and would have a more contentious relationship with NATO.
And God forbid, push for peace so that could end a war that was started under Biden's watch, not Trump's watch. I thought the Ruskies were supposed to be so afraid of the Democrats. God forbid Trump pushes for peace. Oh my God.
They were pressing the president quite hard on that.
Did Mr. Sullivan express to you that the lack of effectiveness from the president in that meeting had anything to do with the president's ability to conduct his job?
No. He did not raise any concern about the president's ability to govern. He did raise the concern that he thought that it would be hard for the president to get reelected.
Inherent in thinking the president can't get reelected because of a debate is the admission that the cognitive abilities are in decline or are a serious issue, which again correlates directly to the pardons being unconstitutional. If Democrats didn't trust Biden to be president again, how on earth could they argue that the pardons are constitutional?
Can you explain that a little bit more?
That if the president wasn't more able to fluidly handle these allies? Did he have the political skills to succeed in a campaign that was already in trouble at that point in time?
When in 2022, when the invasion first happened, was the president able to handle the allies?
He did very successfully. Got them aligned on a sanctions package very quickly, which people thought would take months to do, and it only took days. And got them aligned on a plan to deliver aid to the Ukrainians from Poland.
And then in the summer of 24, Mr. Sullivan's view that he didn't think that the president could win re-election, or
he didn't think the president had been as effective as he had been in the past, and said, it will be hard for him to win re-election this way.
Because he was now less effective than he was in 2022.
Apparently, yes.
Okay.
I look forward to you joining us at our next.
So this is where you have to, it's interesting, like the way Democrats work is George Clooney. There's no actor that could influence Trump's campaign or J.D. Vance, but George Clooney can be one of the top, most influential people in terms of Biden stepping down, literally stepping down and being usurped by his vice president after having won a primary. So George Clooney is fine with Biden winning a primary, getting 14 million votes, but potentially disenfranchising 14 million people. I mean, is there not any difference at all between Biden and Harris, or just all Democrats are the same, it just doesn't matter, and you just walk in lockstep? Why did Biden get forced out? That's what the answer to that makes the pardons likely unconstitutional.
Democratic Party's confidence in the president is waning, with the first Senate Democrat publicly calling for Biden to drop out.
Brooke Singman is here now with all the details for us. Hey, Brooke.
Hey, guys. Yeah, that's right. And it is nice and warm in the studio today. Thank you, Ainsley. But Democratic Senator Peter Welch of Vermont becoming the first Democrat in the Senate to join that growing list of Democrat lawmakers calling on the president to step aside. Welch writing, quote, "He saved us from Donald Trump once, and he wants to do it again.
He saved us from Trump." No, social media algorithms, hysteria and mania over you-know-what, shutting down the state of... They had to end the world to defeat Trump. Democrats had to end the world, shut down state economies. You couldn't even go to the beach. You couldn't go get coffee. I mean, they had to shut down life as we know it. And still it took 2 weeks. Could you imagine? They have nobody on deck. J.D. Vance should win in a landslide against anyone they anoint or catapult into the nomination.
He needs to reassess whether he is the best candidate to do so. In my view, he is not. Now, a total of 10 Democrats have now come out against President Biden, telling him to withdraw from the race. And Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer doesn't see the harm in Biden taking a cognitive test. Listen.
As some people have suggested, just go ahead and take a cognitive test and demand that Donald Trump do the same?
I don't think that'd hurt, to be honest. But at the end of the day,
So you think that he should take a cognitive test?
I don't think it would hurt.
Top Hollywood stars who previously backed the president are now also suggesting Biden step.
That's what friends are for good times and bad times. It's like, do you want friends like the friends Biden has in the Democratic Party? This is a man who saved us from Trump. Look how quickly they turned on him. Look how quickly. Look at that. It's like the people surrounding the dictator that was apprehended and charged with actual crimes. The other day, he didn't have a lot of friends around him. How quickly. This is the most powerful man in the world, Biden. And Clooney and everyone else turned on him in 2 seconds. My God. Over one debate? What was wrong with the debate? Oh, that's right. Possible mental decline. Likely mental decline.
aside, including George Clooney, who headlined that fundraiser with the president just a few weeks ago. Now, in a new op-ed, Clooney is writing, quote, "The Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe big expletive deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate."
If he was the same man at the debate, how do we know that he pardoned the Select Committee? If he was the same man at the debate, according to George Clooney, and that he needs to step down because of cognitive issues, how do we know those pardons were issued by the president himself? That's why Comer couldn't find anyone who knew who ran the AUTOPEN. That's why the Supreme Court, according to the Congressional report, will rule the AUTOPEN pardons unconstitutional. The DOJ, after indicting Comey, Clinton, and others in Florida, and Brennan, will likely indict Cheney and others for possibly deleting classified data and destroying government and classified data records. That's why the question is, why on earth would Biden pardon the Select Committee if they were in charge of trying to find out Trump's rebellion? I mean, did they destroy government records and classified data? Likely. And so, did Biden even pardon them? Well, according to Clooney and others, it wasn't... Okay, George Clooney did not kick Biden out of office. He was just one of the top influential people to get the ball rolling. It wasn't entirely George Clooney's fault. And George Clooney himself didn't kick Biden out of office. But he was very influential in starting the discussion, and that discussion needed to be started for the entire Democratic Party to turn on him immediately, which is exactly like, that's what friends are for. And then you hear democracy, Trump, democracy. They don't even have a primary. They don't even have a function. The Democratic primary is like an authoritarian rally.
Now, a Biden campaign source telling the New York Times that the president stayed for over 3 hours at that fundraiser while Clooney took a photo and quickly left. This is the same fundraiser where former President Barack Obama appeared to usher Biden off the stage after it looked like he froze. Back to you guys.
All right, Brooke, thank you very much. And see, that's the worry about tonight. You know, as we have heard from the President of the United States for a couple of years, he goes, watch me, watch me. 2 weeks ago tonight was the night of the debate, and we watched him, and it was horrifying. And there are a number of, according to the Washington Post this morning, there are a number of Democratic lawmakers who are holding their breath because they feel that if he has a bad performance, and a lot of them are pulling for him to have a bad performance, so he wakes up and smells the coffee and goes, you know, you're right. I shouldn't be doing that.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have to defend the president. I think this is all wrong. All these leaks that are coming out and all the people that have witnessed him before, and then they decided that they were still going to be with him. They have said publicly, remember, they criticized us for playing the video of that same event where President Barack Obama is escorting him off a stage like a little toddler. And so for you,
like a big boy.
Like a big boy. So all of these people had his back before and were with him, and now they want him to get out of the race. I mean...
So Lawrence Jones is 100% right. I agree 100% with what he's saying right now. What they did to Biden was so immoral. These are the morally superior. And you could just count, like, the endless examples of immorality. It was immoral what they did to Biden as they pontificate about morality. It was one of the most immoral things you could ever do. It was unethical in terms of having him win a primary and then taking that primary from him without any justification. One debate, there's no bylaw or there's nothing in the Democratic Party rule book that says one debate performance can, and then we can take your primary victory away. They just make it up as they go along. That's unethical. It's immoral because they're supposed to be his friends, loyal to him, at least some amount of loyalty. I mean, he saved us from Trump, didn't he? So that's their mentality. But they turned on him so quickly after having won 81 million votes. But then how do you get 81 million votes? The political capital from 81 million votes means you could have 10, 20 debate performances like that and still keep your job. So did he get those 81 million? That's also another question. Which, of course, I'm saying, of course he did. Definitely. He definitely got the 81. Oh, definitely.
Look, I've been very clear. I think that he should resign as president right now because I don't think he can govern right now. But on the face of this, I feel like they're all being cowards. If you believe this strongly, then have the 25th Amendment. Don't base it based on now that you guys are going to lose. I think it's disloyal of them. I think it's hypocritical of them. And I think that they hid this all from the American people. So when you go see him in a movie now, remember this. Remember all the people in the cabinet that are now coming out saying, oh, yeah, we haven't been able to meet with him. It's crazy.
So George Clooney, they tried to get George Clooney to pull back on this editorial, and he wouldn't. But they did come out with a response. This Annie Corney says, Biden is fighting back on Clooney from a source familiar with the event. The president stayed there for 3 hours while Clooney took a photo quickly and left.
So this is the AUTOPEN report. The issue here is that it's not constitutional if other people made the decision, and we have no evidence at all that Biden made the decision. Hit subscribe to this channel. Be here. We'll do the second live stream. We started a little late today, probably around 7 or so this evening. God bless you all. Thank you. Be here at around 7 or so. Go to